going to move on to the lightning talks. This is a fun, fast-paced section of any DevOps days, right? And we're going to kick off today's lightning talks with the aforementioned monster of Terraform, Anton Babenko. We talk about Terraform, thinking aloud. So the idea is to question why certain things exist in Terraform, whether it can make things better with infrastructure testing, lesser known IAC patterns. Really looking forward to seeing Anton. Take it away, my friend.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Well, yeah, the title of the talk is Terraform Thinking Aloud. And I think it is thinking aloud because working with Terraform and thinking is actually allowed. Haha. Well, my name is Anton Babenko. I'm organizing a bunch of events when I'm not dealing with Terraform, but apparently most of the time I'm actually dealing with Terraform. So I came up with a bunch of open source products or projects. I like to share whatever I find. Sometimes I write newsletter about Terraform, weekly.tf, or sometimes I do live streams every Friday. Disclaimer. Well, we all know what kind of situation is in Ukraine, and the title for the talk itself, or not title, but the theme for the talk is DevOps in Crisis. Obviously, I mean, I need to make a disclaimer because I'm not a HashiCorp employee. I'm not HashiCorp ambassador. I can say pretty much whatever I want, but be careful. If I said something and you disagree, it's my point of view. It's not official. Terraform in 2022, obviously a very large community, lots of actors, lots of various core providers, module developers, users, SaaS and tools. So the ecosystem is huge. And let's think about for a second, what do we want to do? Imagine there is a guy or girl working as DevOps engineers. First of all, they want to know when they look into Terraform code in 2022, they still ask pretty much the same question. Well, after they figure out who wrote this code, because Git blame is still the thing, they want to know what does this code do. And after they spend some time, they figure out, does it work as expected? And then they think like, oh yeah, I'm motivated enough to add new bug there. How can I do certain things? And when they made something, they want to get feedback quicker, right? After you read this, you think for some time, you think that, oh my God, this is about myself. Well, then you are probably DevOps engineer. So what I'd like to highlight, you probably can imagine that if you're working with software project, you spend a little bit too much time thinking about what kind of thought does developer had, or did developer have, or why this is written this way. So the word is called understandability. What does this code do? 50 to 67% of the time in software project is spent on understanding what is this. And I couldn't find this information or this metric for infrastructure as code, but I really hope that this number is a little bit smaller. So maybe we're not thinking 50% of the time, maybe we're thinking 45% of the time, but not less. So understandability, why? As yesterday, Kelsey Hightower as well as Daniel, they had fireside chat. And I watched this fireside chat and I was really kind of surprised, and not surprised, but I was really happy to see that they were talking about why. Why was this solution introduced? Why this code was written this way? If we ask more whys when we work with infrastructure as code, we will have significantly better result. Don't think that if you just copy paste from somewhere, it will be obvious for a person who is open this, who will open this project next time, because it's not going to be useful in most cases. We need to use third-party tools to help us with some sort of auto-generation of documentation. We can use diagrams as code. We can use even diagrams as diagrams, obvious, right? As Cloudcraft or Brainboard. But the missing bit here, and I think that's where different SaaS are going, is that they'd like to provide a little bit more complete picture where they can visualize all of dependencies or what kind of affected scope does certain change have. So after we figure out that, we want to ask another question. Does it work? Infrastructure testing, right? A few years ago, I wrote that the best way of testing in Terraform is to push to master branch, wait half an hour for people who didn't pin version to open an issue. And half an hour is pretty much enough. I know, I tried it, but there is actually a better way. So the reality of infrastructure testing is that we should be focusing we will be able to get significantly better result if we focus on static analysis or using different tools like TF-Link, Terraform Validate. Once we are happy with that achievement, we can think about running Terraform apply on examples, and usually that's enough. As you can see, I didn't mention TerraTest. So after we are happy that Terraform apply works, we may think like, hey, does it actually work as expected? And that's where the magic is happening. I believe that if we combine understandability with infrastructure testing, we will have significantly better result. Just imagine that you have infrastructure as code written, you understand it, and you can actually make changes and you can actually read it, right? So that's why I think that preferring almost real languages is much more beneficial. Sometimes we can think about resources being used to create resources and data source to retrieve. So think about this. If you create VPC with resource VPC, you can use data source of the same type to read information and see that it has been actually created. Enforcing the same or OPA policies after plan and after apply, this is something rather new, I would say. But ideal infrastructure testing, again, the way I'm thinking about it, is that working code written in human-friendly HCL, and by the way, HCL is short for human-friendly configuration language, combined with human-friendly explanation of what it does. That's exactly ideal infrastructure testing. So another question, how to get the feedback quicker. I believe that combining local Terraform runs with the power of Terraform automation and collaboration systems to handle policies, remote runs, or provide guardrails is the way to go. I'm not really a big fan of pushing it to CI, wait for 15 minutes. If you invest enough and you can execute Terraform locally with pretty much the same guardrails, it will give results significantly quicker. And simplifying the code will obviously reduce the amount of code to test and to think about and try to run it in your head. So short summary, always ask why and always think about understandability when you look into the code. How will other person understand what's happening there? If you want to answer, does it work as expected? Start with minimum infrastructure testing. And again, no need to write anything else than HCL. Eventually, we will have Terraform test command available and it will be useful. And yeah, don't be afraid to run Terraform locally. So the only word which I want to kind of highlight in the whole Ignite talk, which currently is 7 minutes 29 seconds, is understandability. Дякую, слава Україні.
Thank you so much for that talk. Super appreciate it. The audio cut out on my side. I hope it didn't come out for everybody else, but I caught about half the end of that talk. Really, really thank you for that. I'm sure that there are definitely questions that people would like to ask, but we do have to roll forward. So if anybody wants to talk about Terraform with Anton, he's super online. I know I've engaged with him. Maybe we can talk about it in open spaces again today. Thank you so much, Anton. Really appreciate you coming out.
Thank you, Daniel.